Welcome to the May 15th, 2017 voting meeting of the Pine-Richland School Board. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Dr. Banyas?
Here.
Ms. Dawson? Mr. Sundo?
Here.
Mr. Kashani? Mr. DiTullio? Ms. Goebel? Here. Ms. Johnston? Here. Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mr. Stegman? Here. Thank you.
Very brief President's statement. After our student and staff recognition, the board will retire for a brief executive session to discuss a personnel matter. We'll now move on to item 1.02, student and staff recognition. Ms. Hathorn.
Thank you. Tonight we have lots of student staff recognition to let you know about, and then we'll get into retiree recognition as well. First, Pine-Richland High School is topping the rankings. U.S. News and World Report named Pine-Richland High School the top high school in the county and 7th in the state. The Washington Post named Pine-Richland High School second most challenging school in the county and also number 12 in the state. And finally, the Pittsburgh Business Times ranked Pine-Richland School District 8th in the region. 2 students earned awards in the Pittsburgh Regional Science and Engineering Fair. Senior Arjan Guglani earned 3rd place in several sponsor awards, and sophomore Devin Gola earned a Perseverance Award. In addition, Arjan and 9th grader Justin Waltrip qualified for the BPA Junior Academy of Science competition after earning 1st at regionals. Seniors Robert Shearer, Ryan Schonbachler, Joshua Trant, Tanner Zhang earned 1st place at the Technology Student Association state competition. Junior James Baxter earned 2nd and 3rd place, along with junior Michael Dolgus, who earned 3rd place. Junior Christopher Gebhardt earned a regional award at the National Association of Women in Construction and Architectural Drafting Contest for successfully designing a dentist office. Seniors Michael Schlegel, Jacob Retchenberg, juniors Austin Shaw, David Hodgson, and Brian Kerp, and sophomore Tyler Keenan earned awards of excellence in the 2017 Digital Media Arts Consortium Spring Showcase held at Robert Morris on April 20th. Junior Patricia Kobaugh earned the Student of the Month Award for her studies in early childhood education at A.W. Beatty. Pine-Richland earned nominations in the annual Gene Kelly Awards program for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat for all student orchestra and execution of musical direction. Senior Jake Peterson earned a nomination for Best Actor and Paige Nelson for Best Actress. Winners will be announced May 27th. Also on to sports. The high school varsity baseball team is advancing tonight in the 2nd round of the WPIAL playoffs, so we wish them well. Later this week, Pine-Richland will compete in the WPIAL track championships and in the WPAL boys and girls lacrosse. Junior lacrosse player Marina Miller broke a school record by scoring her 201st career goal just 3 minutes into the North Hills game. Also, last Friday, seniors Benjamin Vinarski and Siddhanth Iyer took a win in the consolation match in the WPIAL Boys Double Tennis Championship, so congratulations. Also, sophomore Lauren Freivogel won the Women's Health Classic Junior Challenge on the Peggy Kirk Bell Girls Golf Tour at the Links at Stony Point in South Carolina on April 1st, earning her spot on the LPGA Symetra Tour Women's Health Classic that just wrapped up on Sunday at Stony Point. She was cut, but congratulations for a good job. The high school peer-to-peer empowerment team earned the Jefferson Award Students in Action Pennsylvania Gold Banner. Now, the team's ongoing efforts to promote a positive and inclusive environment for all students earned them the award. This year, they chose a very tough topic to discuss that many communities are dealing with, teen suicide, and they hosted various projects, including a color run where they promoted unity and raised $3,500 to benefit the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. In addition, the team sponsor, Leslie Straub, earned the Jefferson Awards Foundation 2017 Pittsburgh Students in Action Outstanding Faculty Advisor. And I know Ms. Straub's here tonight. Oh, there she is. So congratulations. That's quite an honor. We're not done there either. Eden Hall Upper Elementary School Principal Stephen Smith is being named Pennsylvania's 2017 National Distinguished Principal. The selection committee is recognizing Mr. Smith for his commitment to increasing student achievement and creating an environment in which students thrive. Now, one of the things that set him apart was his dedication, and the National Association of Elementary School Principals will be officially honoring him in Washington, D.C. I know Mr. Smith is here as well. If you want to...
Thank you very much. Definitely an honor, but it's an honor for the entire school community. Eden Hall is a very special place. It's hard to believe just under 4 years ago, walking into that building, and I know right away you see the trees and you see the waterfalls, but it's so much more. It's the people and the relationships. And with Joe and Greta and Susie, Margie and Tara, it's an incredible place. We have a great staff, an incredible student body, and wonderful parents. So this is an award for our entire school community, and I know I could not be more proud than what I am today. So and thank you again for your support, and Dr. Miller and Dr. Pasquinelli and Dr. Silva. Thank you.
I just wanted, yeah.
Just a quick note, Mr. Smith's son's here and parents are here. Can you give a little wave? We'll give you a round of applause as well.
Oh, that's what I was going to say, so thank you.
All right, good.
Tonight, as you know, we do retiree recognition at the regular board meeting, and tonight several retirees are here with us, and each year I do count up the number of hours that all of the retirees have together, and this year this pool of retirees have logged 205 years of service, so it's amazing. Yeah, and we have about 10 retirees, but 6 are with us tonight. So we would like to officially thank them for their dedication to education. And I'm going to say a few words about the retirees, and if they want, they can come up and say a few words themselves, or they can go straight to Dr. Miller, who is going to be standing over there by Dr. Pasquinelli and Dr. Silva, with a special gift for you, and then you could shake everybody's hand or fist bump, whatever you like. So first, we're going to start at Hance Elementary School. Not many of our teachers have the opportunity to retire in the same building in which they earned their student teaching experience. However, DJ Banis is one of the rare educators who had the opportunity to retire in the same building where she student taught and spent her entire teaching career. And she began in 1989 as a student teacher, and she made such a great impression they hired her in February of 1990. So that's quite impressive, and she's been here for 27 years as a 4th grade teacher, and she says her most favorite memory is the Science Olympiad when it was in elementary school programs, and now it's at Eden Hall. But she says Mr. Banis has been very supportive of her career over the years, and he even jokes that she has a degree in bulletin board construction. So, DJ. Oh, I didn't know that. You mean he's been working on them. So come on up if you want to say a few words.
I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity to teach in such a premier school district over the last 28 years, and to say that it gave me the opportunity, hopefully, to make a difference in the children's lives that you put in my care. I saw a sign recently that said, "It's a beautiful thing when a career and a passion come together. So thank you.
So as she's making her way around, we'll start to talk about our next retiree. We'll move to Wexford Elementary School. And she began working at Pine-Richland as a kindergarten and playground aide in 1990. Later, Mrs. Donna Haley began serving as a secretary in the front office of Wexford Elementary School. Her colleagues remind us that she has welcomed hundreds of families into the Wexford Elementary family and is the first person that our families and students see as they enter or call the school. Now, over the last 27 years, she has answered thousands of questions, not only from staff but family, and they say she's made Wexford a more special place, and we would like to honor you. If you would like to come up, or you can go straight to Dr. Miller.
I'm not real big on speaking in front of people, but I just wanted to say I really enjoyed working here, and I made a lot of great friends, and the staff at Wexford is wonderful, and I'm really going to miss them all very, very much. Thank you.
Our next retiree actually began at Hance Elementary School in 2002. Miss Shelley Byers spent nearly all of her time teaching 5th grade, but did teach 1 year of 1st grade, and in 2008 she started teaching 5th grade at Eden Hall Upper Elementary School when it first opened. She's unofficially mentored many new teachers as they came on board on Pine-Richland, and those who know her best says she has a true passion for teaching and learning and cares deeply about her work with her students. And I have some little-known facts about her, that she loves to rollerblade, but that's not what she's famous for. She is most famous for performing a rap version of the Dewey Decimal System. So during the Eden Hall Follies. Now, I don't know if she's going to give us a little verse or two, but if you'd like to come up.
I'd like to say thank you for the privilege of being part of the Pine-Richland School District, for allowing me to be part of your child's education and part of their lives. I'd like to mention that my husband, who is a Presbyterian minister, will be retiring this summer as well. So while I've been working Monday through Friday for the past 27 years, he's been working Saturday and Sunday. I think that's probably why we're still married. Add to that challenge the fact that he said, ever since I've become a teacher, if I'm not actively questioning him, I am speaking to him in imperative sentences. So, doctors, I think we have some problem-based learning ahead for us that we'll be engaged in. So, I would just like to say thank you very much.
Now we'll move on to Pine-Richland Middle School. Our first retiree from the middle school has had the pleasure of starting at Pine-Richland as a part-time substitute teacher for 7 years at all levels in all buildings, new and old. And in 1997, Miss Elaine Donley says she began working as an instructional assistant at Pine-Richland Middle School. She also worked in the summer extended school year program for 16 years. During her time, she had the opportunity to work with students in the life skills program, learning support, and homebound programs, and with students on the autism spectrum at all grade levels. She says she'll look back and remember the times the students would have those aha moments and would understand and grasp those difficult concepts they've been working on together. So, Ms. Donley.
This way. Thank you. Sitting here listening and kind of going down memory lane the past few weeks, I've thought about having had the opportunity to work with students at all age levels, having done the extended school year as well as subbing, and then spending 20 years with 8th graders. And it occurred to me that a bumper sticker I saw many years ago said, you don't scare me, I teach middle school. And I thought, that's really how I feel. People, often the prevailing theory of 8th graders particularly, oh no, but I just love that age group, and they're just on the cusp of adulthood, but still little kids enough that, they're just endearing. So, thank you, and I will miss them. Thank you.
Astronomer and writer Carl Sagan once said that somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known. The idea of discovery and experimentation is evident in Pine-Richland Middle School teacher Carol Scott's classroom, where students have the opportunity to conduct hands-on experiments and explore scientific concepts. She is able to spark that curiosity within her students for the past 20 years. She started teaching in 1997 as an 8th grade science teacher at the middle school and happily remained in that role. Now, one of her fondest memories is that she was chosen as one of 120 teachers across the U.S. to actually board a zero-G plane and fly in it and feel the experience of weightlessness, and she was able to bring that back to the classroom and share that concept with her students, though. She says she will miss those quirky middle school sense of humor among her students, and she said the middle school has become like a family to her. So Mrs. Scott, and also, if she wants to share, she had her own scientific discovery recently. Oh, you don't know? You said that you got to watch something? Yeah. Come on up. You thought I made that
up. Thank you for allowing me to teach these 20 years, and what Rachel probably didn't know is I student taught in this district also. My kids graduated from here, and when I moved into the district in '85, people didn't know where Pine-Richland was. So I've been lucky enough also to watch it grow ever since 1985. In fact, when I started at the middle school, some of the books in the library still said Babcock School District. I think what she's alluding to is lately I've had some health issues, and last week I had something called a heart ablation, where they actually killed heart muscles in my heart, and I got to watch it. I laid there and I actually watched it on the monitor. So as a science teacher, I thought that was really cool, where other people probably think I'm crazy. But thanks for letting me be here for these 20 years and working with the students. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
So this is kind of funny. Dr. Davis, your notes are missing, so I almost think she doesn't want to retire. But I saved Dr. Davis for last because she is our retiree with the most years logged, and Dr. Davis has been around so long that she's watched the district double in population from 1,800 to nearly 4,600 since the early 90s, and also watched the athletic program grow from a AA WPIAL to WPIAL Class 6A in 2016. She began her career at Pine-Richland in 1986 as a secondary gifted education teacher and a social studies teacher. Later, she served as a middle school assistant principal and high school principal. While she missed interaction with the students, she moved on to roles in director of staff development and pupil services. So most who know her say she is forward-thinking and optimistic and motivates others in her leadership style, and has been a wonderful supporter of the strategic initiatives. And many who know her quirky sense of humor, and I'm sure she'll give a little bit of a stand-up here. So if you wouldn't mind coming over.
Thank you to Rachel, and what a treat it is to be with so many of my longtime friends and colleagues, and I'm glad to be with you. And I want to just say, in 1983, there was a draconian book written called Nation at Risk that suggested that the whole future of the country was imperiled because of the lessening of standards in public education. And so at that time, I was busy not completing a dissertation in developmental psychology at the University of Chicago, and my student loans were due. So I thought, oh my God! And I thought, I know, I'll teach because I've been a student, and so I know how. So armed with such knowledge and pure passion and having a calling, later I realize now that I leave with only questions, with less knowledge, and with a deep, deep, deep appreciation to the school boards of Pine-Richland School District for giving me the opportunity to focus on the learning of every student every day. And trying to sum up your feelings is rough. So I wrote a brief poem. Teacher, principal, director, 30 years at PR or more. She gave it her best, now gives it a rest. Pine-Richland she'll always adore. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis.
Now, this could be self-conscious. Thank you.
I did want to mention that Hants Elementary School paraprofessional Judy Murray, Hants custodian Mr. Kenneth Schultes, and also middle school custodian Dennis Cassidy, and middle school special ed teacher Grace Lyon could not be here tonight, but we do appreciate all the hard work and dedication they put into their employment here at Pine-Richland School District. Now we have a special guest, Sodexo's Diane Buckman's going to introduce a special guest for our retirees here.
Good evening. I just wanted to, as every year, this year we have our 6th annual Future Chef finalist here, and it's been a great program. Every year the kids come up with better options and food choices. This year it was healthy comfort foods. So our finalist and our winner this year was Eliza Lazaro, and she made a flatbread mac and cheese, which you will all get to sample shortly. But come on up, Eliza has a few words for us.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me to this school board meeting. I am very happy that I had the opportunity to participate in the Future Chef competition, and I thank the school board and Sodexo for hosting the event. I hope you keep doing it so other kids can have the experience of making their food at Eden Hall. I hope you enjoy my food.
Thank you to the Lazaro family, and also Sodexo. Every year, they're gracious to invite the young chef winner in, and I'm going to throw it back to Dr. Banyas. We'll break for a few minutes to have a little reception out there with the retirees, so I'll throw it back to you, though.
Yeah, we will break for this to celebrate with our retirees, and then the board will retire to an executive session to discuss a personnel matter, and then we will be back thereafter.
Thank you.
The board just met in executive session to discuss a personnel matter. We'll move on with our agenda to item 1.03, recognition of visitors. Anybody wish to approach the board, please do so. Please finish your name and where you're from, sir.
Yes, sir. Hang on one second. Let me boot this bad boy up. Okay, my name is Jason DeWolf. I reside at 2128 West Grove Drive, and I have 4 children. We've lived in the district since January of 2008. So the purpose of me approaching the podium tonight is really to provide some observations and some suggestions on this. I attended the workshop, Talk Saves Lives, a couple weeks ago by Jennifer Sikora of the Western Pennsylvania chapter of American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And so, just some observations about the presentation. Essentially, her message was that this organization has existed for 30 years. They reside in, or they work in all 50 states. And over the past 20 years, teen suicide has exponentially increased, and they're furiously trying to find out why. The biggest question that they have is why? Why is this happening? And just in summary, I would assert that they propose the object of hope for the students is medicine and counseling. And so I thought I'd offer a counter-proposal to that approach. So what I'm going to do is walk you through just a couple quotes from a guy named Noah Webster. Some of you may know him. He's the father of American scholarship, and actually wrote the first dictionary for the United States. So a couple quotes from him. Education is useless without the Bible. The Bible was America's basic textbook in all fields. God's Word contained in the Bible has furnished all necessary rules to direct our conduct. That's end quote there. Second quote, every civil government is based upon some religion or philosophy of life. Education in a nation will propagate the religion of that nation. In America, the foundational religion was Christianity, and it was sown in the hearts of Americans through the home, the private and public schools for centuries. Our liberty, which is our freedom, not our autonomy, but our liberty, growth, and prosperity, that was inserted by me. Our liberty, growth, and prosperity was the result of a biblical philosophy of life. Our continued freedom and success is dependent on our educating the youth in America in the principles of Christianity. So, with listening to Noah Webster, who is the father of American scholarship, I believe there is a religion here being propagated, and it's secular humanism, and that essentially when we teach evolution, we teach that life came from cosmic dust, and therefore it has no purpose. And so thus we're not equipping our students to we're not giving them the purpose, a value of life, and furthermore we're also, it fails to teach how evil exists. So when bad things happen, we're trying to teach them to cope, but evolution doesn't teach how evil came, so it can't teach how to cope with it. So if we listen to Noah Webster, he says the Bible, education is useless without the Bible, and this is what it says. This is Proverbs 8:35 through 36. It says, "For whoever finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord, but he who fails to find me injures himself. All who hate me love death." And so I'm making the case here that the journey to find hope for the sanctity of life, if continued horizontally, will remain flat, or will fall flat. The hands of hope will reach out to find nothing but empty baskets of unsatisfied souls quenching for more. However, if the journey for hope would just look upward towards the Almighty Creator, the author and perfecter of life, the one who ordained it and thus the one who sustains it, that's the only fruitful answer to the problem at hand.
I'd have to ask you to summarize, sir.
Yep, I'm going to offer one solution, and that is, one request, and that is, how much is this costing the district to bring in this foundation? What is it costing us? And I'd ask that a solution would be just grab your local pastors and let them come talk about the sanctity of life. You got a big auditorium, it's an opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to approach the board?
Good evening. My name is Mark Schmidt. I'm a resident and real estate owner in the Pine-Richland School District. One of the reasons for my visit tonight, and relax, I'm going to be brief. Last year, I had sent a letter to Dr. Banyans, the board president, just as a reminder to renew the performance bond for STA, your current student transportation provider. I sent that letter certified. Tonight, I just decided to deliver them personally. I would like to read the letter. It's very short. Dear Dr. Banyans, the Pine-Richland School District continues to be negatively impacted by the shortcomings regarding the performance of STA as a student transportation service provider for the Pine-Richland School District. I am requesting, as a resident and property owner in the Pine-Richland School District, that the district demand STA to renew and deliver their performance bond no later than 15 days before the commencement of the district's fiscal year, which actually begins July 1st, 2017. The district should demand that STA's performance bond before the maximum annualized contract value amount allowable as found on page 5, section H3 of the current student transportation agreement. I thank you in advance for your consideration of this issue. Very truly yours, Mark D. Schmidt. About 2 years ago, there was a recommendation made by your current administration, led by Dr. Miller and partnered with Owen Kenny. The recommendation was made to not renew with Monarch Student Transportation. It was made to go with an outside provider, actually a Canadian company, STA, because STA promised that they would provide the same quality level of service that Monarch had provided for the past 12 years. Also, they made a promise to save this school district a tremendous amount of money. Neither of those things happened. I live here, I see it, I watch it. The public fills me in on a regular basis. And I can't help, in closing, that I remember that board meeting very well. I'm sure most of you all do as well. But there was one board member that did not vote for the recommendation by the administration to go with STA. And I, along with many, many people of this community, we'd like to thank Therese Dawson for believing in your local community bus transportation provider. She was the only board member that voted against STA and voted to keep Monarch Student Transportation. Monarch is alive and well. And Teresa, from myself and many, many people from this community, thank you very much. Pat, you thought I was going to be longer.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you very, very much.
3 to 5, Mark. 3 to 5.
Was it 3? Okay, good. Well, I kept it on the short side. Thank you very much. My wife is waiting at home. She has the Penguins game on pause, so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Anybody else wish to approach the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 1.04, correspondence. Ms. Williams.
Caitlin Hayes emailed the board regarding student health. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Item 1.05, minutes for approval. Motion to approve the meeting minutes as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to the strategic plan update. Dr. Miller, who has this one?
Dr. Silva.
Thank you very much. We've been anxiously awaiting the chance to update you on the progress for the elementary report cards. You'll notice that the title of tonight's presentation has slightly shifted as we are reframing a little bit of the work, which I will explain as we go on. And I would like to acknowledge that we have one report card committee member in our audience, Mrs. Olson, so thank you to her for her representation during this process. So initially, as I stated, we began with the report cards as the main focal point, as pointed out in the strategic plan, given the feedback from parents and staff members. The item that we were trying to go after was a report card that was refrigerator friendly. So we were trying to work through that process, and in designing the different work that we needed to accomplish, we began by first defining the reporting categories that we wanted to see on whatever mechanism that was, whether it was a report card, the grade book, or some other tool that we had. So we began by defining those as the categories or the overarching broader concepts under which we report progress. Just below that, we wanted to note the actual competencies, the skills that would bake up the competencies, the categories that would be reported, and we were hoping to be able to capture progress throughout those categories at regular intervals or frequently. And so there was a lot of discussion that came about in the committee in looking at the way that the report card is set up currently in K-3. The teachers do not even have the functionality. It's not turned on for them to have a tab where they are able to capture that progress in the electronic gradebook at present. In 4 to 6, they are utilizing that feature. For the K-3 teachers, they're only going in at reporting periods and selecting the indicators to reflect the children's growth. So through those discussions and trying to understand how we wanted to best capture the progress that was underway in the classroom, we discussed whether it would be better to be updating things regularly in the electronic gradebook through the report cards, and essentially there were multiple perspectives that came about, and we recognized the continuum of different options that we had available regarding the progress reporting. And we really need to obtain the feedback of the community. We already had our educational requirements and perspectives intact, but we weren't sure quite what the parents and the community would value. So that leads us into the need for our town hall meeting, which we have set up for Monday, May 22nd, and an email invitation was sent out to the parents of K-6 students, inviting them to come and offer their feedback regarding the different continuum aspects that we'll share with you in a moment. So there'll be both a morning and an evening session, and we do invite parents to please join us for that to provide their input. For people who are unable to attend that meeting, we did also send out a form link that was attached to that email where they could provide their insights if they were able to attend the meeting. However, we asked that they wait and complete that after we had the chance to inform them and go through some of the discussion points that we will look at this evening. So within that reporting continuum, I'm going to give you a moment to read each of these, and then we'll briefly talk about what we're trying to capture. But essentially, there's a Likert scale, and the individuals are able to select where they fall, where their value system falls on each of these proposed items. If they find that they value them equally, selecting a 4 would be appropriate within the metrics, and it would reflect equal weighting on both components, whereas you could pick the 1 or the 7 to be on one of the polar ends. So we recognized an option to be providing more frequent updates through something like the electronic gradebook to be an option, or more periodic updates that might reflect more of a report card based feel. So we want to understand how parents are used to seeing that summary, what they would prefer to see, and be able to meet those requirements.
Additionally, we recognize that growth and achievement are both types of data that we can report on. To give a for instance for this, if we have a student who is maybe not performing at grade level, however, the parents continue to see that they're not performing at grade level across quarters on the report card, they're not receiving information about whether that gap is being closed and whether that child is growing or not within the system. So capturing some growth data might be beneficial if you're a parent of one of those children. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you might have a child who is consistently performing at grade level, perhaps above grade level, and understanding whether they are also growing and making their progress that we would hope that they would in a year. So we again ask people to rate between achievement and growth, which one would they place more value on. Additionally, we recognize that we could report through various lenses, whether it was an academic lens, and we were giving them specifically information about the standards and the criteria set out within the standards, or we could look at the development of personal skills, so effort, persistence, and sort of characteristics of successful learners that you see in the classroom. Our current report cards capture a blend of both, but again, because we are looking at defining this project more specifically, we were giving the opportunity for individuals to weigh in on their values. Additionally, we could focus on quantitative data, and where the discussion went with some of the committee members was adding percentages along with the letter grades that would appear in the report card versus also having narrative feedback and qualitative feedback. So some of the discussions we had again with the committee were around the comments that are currently preset and maybe having the opportunity for teachers to capture other information anecdotally to explain the grades and the ratings that a child is receiving. And lastly, we wanted to understand how they're currently obtaining information about their child's progress so that we would be able to look at that and understand the scope of how it's happening now, and then how we could make it more manageable for them and more real time possibly, if that is what they're looking for. So our hope is to take all of the information that we glean on the 22nd, and hopefully we will identify some common values and requirements that emerge from that, from the parental perspective, and take a look at that within the perspectives of the educational requirements that we have as well. And once we're able to do that, it'll help frame out some of the work. So we are better understanding if we want to move towards simply looking at the report card and the more traditional methods of reporting that we've been utilizing, or whether utilizing something like the online gradebook and leveraging its capabilities for more real-time progress updates would be beneficial. And in an effort to not remove teachers from the classrooms and to allow them to engage in their daily work, we were thinking that this work could be best accomplished in the summer. Once we have the requirements kind of set forth, we can design the work and the tasks to be accomplished and allow them to review and revise the drafts that they've come up with so far and ensure alignment between K to 6. So what they've been doing currently is looking at their grade level lens, the different reporting categories and competencies which they would like to have reflected, and now we need to look across and make sure that they are aligned and that we are thinking of transition as we go through. In addition, we could come up with some grade level guides that would also help ensure consistency among the assignment of whether they were indicators, letter grades, whatever it becomes through our conversation, so that they can assign them in a consistent manner across the grade levels with rubrics and other guides. Lastly, we would also need to talk with SunGuard, which is the developer of our current report card and the online grading system, and share with them what specifications we have and allow them to share with us the timelines and potential quotes that would go along with that. When we first approached them about looking at the gradebook and altering the way that the report card looks, they shared with us that some of that work that takes major programming changes would not be ready for the 2017-2018 school year, the start of it. So that, again, changed some of the lens that we're looking through. And what they were able to show us, if you look at the graphic on the bottom of the slide, is the capability of our current gradebook system, where we have the ability to have the course title, so third grade ELA, for example, and then a category underneath that. Their example within the SunGuard system here is reading, and then literature would be the category. And then a competency. Theirs tend to look a little bit more like the eligible content that you would see within the standards. We are thinking of taking that and making it more measurable, smaller, concise, and clear for parents to understand. And an example of what we have come up with actually for second grade is in the top corner here in the right. So for ELA, the categories we defined were comprehension/vocabulary, fluency, writing, spelling, and phonics. for the ELA categories. And underneath those, there are specific skills, subsets that we're calling the competencies, which make those up. And the key here is that each of those are not so specific that they can't be assessed at each quarter. So we would no longer have the not applicable effect on the report cards or in the grade book for certain indicators, and we would be able to understand the children's progress and achievement across time. So where we've been, we've had the principals taking a look at this and contributing through the principal meetings. I've been out to the buildings twice now, and then third times, sometimes four, in different occasions, talking with specific individuals and teacher teams as they have follow-up questions to the work that we're designing right now. We have talked with SunGard preliminarily. We brought that product and the different pieces of information back to the principals in May. We're giving you the board update, and then that town hall focus group is coming up later in this month. So afterwards, we would like to look, kind of narrow the scope of the work and understand exactly what it is that we could best accomplish within those summer months with the teachers, come back to you and share where we are, and then hopefully have some specifications set out for SunGard in July so that we could begin a partial rollout on the teacher side, particularly for the K-3 teachers who have not been utilizing an electronic gradebook thus far, to understand how that works, obtain professional development, and then be able to turn on some of those features depending on what it would look like for the community. Again, I would be remiss without saying thank you to the committee members. It's been a very hard task trying to define the work when we realized that we were all operating from a different philosophical lens or with some different ideas of what that work could look like. And regardless of that, they were able to be troopers and really try to stay focused on the chunk of work that we had designed to understand what those reporting categories and competencies would be. So I do appreciate all of the hard work and efforts of these 29 individuals over basically a month and a half to come up with what would be a proposed new report card if we move in that direction. Are there any questions that you may have?
I'm sorry, I want to thank you for the work on this. And I have a question, it's not meant to be a facetious question. It really is a genuine question. I mean, I found my mother gave me my kindergarten report card a while ago from her box, and it said, I keep my hanky clean or something like that, so that you know how old I am. But why do you think that capturing this information is so complicated anymore? I mean, it used to be like more simple, and it's a genuine question from an education standpoint. Why do you think we're struggling with this?
I think we're recognizing that there are several aspects that we could capture, and that being on the forefront and somewhat progressive in the types of information that we can provide to individuals is going to require something different than what we've traditionally done. So I think for many years it's probably been easy to just continue doing what you've been doing, and without really thinking through other types of information that may be available and how to capture it best to really truly show that the home and school environments are partnering over this report card. So we want the home environment to be able to understand exactly what we're saying about the progress and know lockstep what the children need, so that we're able to provide them real-time interventions and support. So I would like to think it's because our responsiveness over time has increased. What we know about the rigor of the programs has increased, and I think in a good way we're really trying to help push students to their best of abilities to really accomplish what they can.
And so just my feedback as a mom, and of course my kids are not in elementary school anymore, but these, and again, I'm just saying what I think, but the concepts of, they tend to be like current jargony, like academic versus whole child progress monitoring. It feels impersonal, because it is like jargony, so that's just my response as a mom. It sounds smart and everything, but it doesn't get to my parent role at the heart of it.
We can certainly take that feedback, and when we have the town hall meeting, think through some more examples to make it tangible.
Yeah, just the more of how it's worded. I want to know how well my child is doing and what I can do to help them. And this, academic whole child progress monitoring, it sounds so academic.
Can you go back a few slides?
Sure.
Because I want to hit on this. I think it's a good point. Go to the whole child one, because that was used as an example. Did the, up above where it says, meaning academics more grades, and whole child is personal skills like effort, does that help it make it feel better?
I mean, it's just the quoted jargon. Do we really need that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you're trying to use it as a definition for your scale.
You just have to call it something.
Yeah,
right?
but it just, and again, it's just me. I mean, and not everybody agrees with me. So, my perspective.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I echo your thanks to Dr. Silba and also to the teachers, because
it's huge.
This, it is everyone agrees that the current report card needs serious help. The anxiety comes when we think about how is it going to change. And as teachers look at their daily behaviors and practices and what might it mean to utilize tools that we have today in different ways to capture it. So again, I think that from the 30-year-ago, 40-year-ago perspective, our teachers today, just like before, know a heck of a lot about what kids are doing. Right. We are much more sophisticated today, though, about understanding differences in comprehension or fluency or certain skills. And so I think 2 years ago, when this was placed on the strategic plan, it was placed here to literally fix the report card. That was the intention. And the discussion, though, 2 years later is, why just fix something that was originally intended to be at a time when you would get a physical thing? How can we, in the year 2017 and beyond, give parents more of what they'd like to know more frequently in a way that they like to view things? And so the parent is the customer, right? The parent is the one first, but our staff's also a customer because they got to figure out how to manage it in a way that makes sense in the classroom. And but what we're hopeful is that our parents, K to 3, but K to 6, can really feel good about how they're doing on a more regular basis.
Like
right now, they can't necessarily do
like
that.
I would use, and again, this is just my off the cuff. I'm not analyzing this at all. It's a hard thing to do, but the word whole child versus success skills or something like that, I get that better. This whole child concept, it just sounds so like ominous and psychological and all that. I just want to know, are these the type of things that bring my child success? Are they diligent, thorough, neat, whatever it is, as opposed to, are they an awesome personal character to be around and have these genuine, enriched skills of professional behavior at the age of 7? I don't know. I guess that's the disconnect for me. It sounds more lofty than the mom of a 7-year-old wants to hear. And I don't have a 7-year-old anymore, but I'm thinking back.
I have a 11-year-old, and his mom wants to hear more of that too. So I feel some of what you're saying. If this is dissimilar, let me know. But if it's same, you can get caught up in trying to find exactly the right scale or exactly the right band of what you're trying to get. But what I hear in the community, and hopefully the community is feeling this as well, there's people just want communication. And so really, I think you can succeed in a lot of different ways if the outcome is parents are getting more feedback. And by God, there should be a place where you can write that little Therese keeps her handkerchief clean. And we'd love, all parents, I think, want to hear more of that, some free-form comments that shows there's effort. And so I'm not, and when you get caught up, Therese, maybe in that, I'm trying to say, is this, which milestone is this, and we're putting too many categories on it, you might lose that focus. I don't think you will. I think it'll always come back to that, and I think that should be a good outcome, that the desire for the community and for parents to get more feedback is going to be heard loud and clear no matter what the result, I hope.
There's nothing wrong with what you've done, though. It's just, I'm just giving you feedback.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback.
It's good stuff. Just three quick comments. On the first question, as a survey taker, I wouldn't necessarily know a difference between frequent and periodic. On questions 2, 3, and 4, I would be disappointed as a parent if the results of the survey ended up giving me one or the other. You do a nice job of presenting education and what the opportunity is, but I would want both. I'd want to know how they're doing over time and change in learning and what they're doing at that point in time. So achievement versus growth, I would want both.
Then you'd pick a 4, and that'd be perfect, because we're looking to try to capture.
Three musketeers, I want them both.
Sure.
So I'd be disappointed if I only got one. But the third comment, because of what Peter and Therese said, in the end, if the adoption eliminated that record that 30 years from now they get to look back on, I would be very personally disappointed in that.
We still would like to have a record of sorts. It's just a matter of where we want the real-time feedback or certainly.
So something still goes on the refrigerator. Something still gets put in the drawer.
Something on cardstock, something that 30 years from now.
Well, the cardstock has to be printed at home, because we don't send a tangible thing, but they can, but yes, there is still a something that comes up. But again, I think to the point of where we're leaning the same way. We want to give frequent communication. It doesn't take the place of parent calling teacher, parent emailing teacher, back and forth. But when, we've done really well at achievement, right? So I get my child's report card, and you know what it says? Mostly, it says A, or, I have no idea what that means. I know that the A on one may be not the same as an A on another. I may not know whether she's being challenged or pushed in a particular area. I don't know whether she's growing. I don't know how she responds when she's pushed with a concept that's new to her. I don't know a lot. I know that she must be doing okay, and I might be able to dive in more deeply and try to figure that out. So we ultimately, again, I think we're going to try to find an answer that the parents is meaningful to the parents. And to learn what our parents think is meaningful, we're going to ask them. Good. And then we're going to take what they say back to our teachers and say, what do you think? And how does this all come together?
So I appreciate this again, but these are the kinds of things, when we have this, okay, so we're taking time to do feedback, and this is more like for them and Mike. This is the kind of thing that's probably a good academic achievement meeting versus like for the whole board. And I don't know what the rest of you feel about that, but sometimes there's little details that are important to discuss, I think, on a more intricate level, and then for the sake of time, we kind of skim over, because this is important stuff, I think. And so if there's any desire for us to do that on a deeper level moving forward, we should be glad to do that at an academic achievement meeting before we finalize it, or whatever.
We can certainly bring it through that platform.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
It's in this section just because it's an
sure.
updated
I get it.
progress.
I'm just, throwing that out there because it's the kind of stuff that I like to work on.
Thank you.
We just keep going.
Okay, we'll move on to item 2.02.
Okay, this is regarding substitutes. So one of the areas that many school districts, ours included, have been struggling with, and it started several years ago, and it was with the substitute shortage. So what brought this topic to light a few years ago, the reason it's on the strategic plan, is we were having trouble filling substitute vacancies, day-to-day subs required by teachers because they're sick or have a personal day, or because we're doing testing and need to have a substitute in the classroom to cover that. And so that's what brought it to the strategic plan. We've implemented a few strategies, and I won't repeat what Mr. Kenny shared in February about what has happened in order to do a better job of getting people in the classroom. So we have done a better job of getting substitutes. We use different strategies to accomplish that, and through Kelly Services, we're at about 90% or so fill, which is below the service level agreement, but To use a comparison, we have a consortium right nearby that services a number of schools who come together for that purpose. Their average percentage fill is in the low 60s for the last year. We're at 90. So they vary within those schools, but it's pretty stunning. And when you have a class unfilled, that becomes urgent. Mr. Stegman shared a different perspective on this, and so we have it back here as a strategic update because the look was different. So the question that he posed, and clarified if I don't capture it, is, assuming we are filling positions and ideally filling them with certificated people in the area of the vacancy, how do we ensure the continuity of learning for students in the best way possible? And what strategies or indicators or measurements should we consider in order to do that? So we're in a place where we can begin to address that question, so that's why it's here. And I think we would echo the value of that question when we think about substitutes that are in schools. So I'll kick it off a little bit, I'll let others chime in, and then any questions that the board has or how we want to do this. So this is here more of, not to have a long discussion, but just to get a game plan on how we want to approach this and whether we want to schedule a committee meeting, and if so, which one, and how and where does it work. There are a lot of elementary certificated teachers out there. The pool is larger of elementary certifications. And there's a high likelihood, K to 6, that when you have a substitute in your classroom, it's going to be an elementary teacher when it's a classroom environment. Not the same in music, not the same in perhaps business or in other areas of the program, but true for the most part in the classroom. When an absence is known, and many elementary teachers will tell you it's much easier to work than it is to prepare for a substitute, because it takes a tremendous amount of time basically to plan 5 hours of learning activities which progress and change throughout the day. At the secondary level, the certificated people in a particular department are much less, and if we were to hold the standard of certification as a criteria, we would struggle to match science for science or bio for bio or whatever the case might be. But the advantage at the secondary level in planning, when it's a known absence, is sometimes teachers might teach 3 of one class, so they design a lesson and that lesson gets repeated by a substitute 3 times, and then they may teach another prep for a couple of classes. To Mr. Stegman's point, I think we have to look at a few different things. One is, how are we, I can tell you a principal's perspective, and certainly the others who have been principals. You're happy when the vacancies are filled. So the threshold, I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying as a principal, when you walk in and you know that all of your absences are filled with a substitute, you are pleased that that's the way the day is starting, and you're not trying to cover by pulling all different people, all different periods in order to try to make things work. But we could certainly take a look at different levels. I think it's going to be different K through. How do we ensure we have the best plan in place, particularly when it's a unplanned absence? Wake up, you're sick, don't know you're not going to be there, or it's the type of situation where we end up, like at a secondary level, you might have a teacher who's covered by 6 different teachers on their 6 instructional periods, because there's no sub, and that's how it's all working. So we're open to that. We're open to identifying some things that we can measure and look for. I don't know that we're ready to have a defined game plan, but we're certainly open to hearing other feedback on it.
Thoughts on our substitution utilization?
I think our fill rate, I agree. I don't, we've talked about anecdotal peer reviewing. I don't know if we've looked at it really hard, but, I see that. There is one bit of data, so before I can kind of go off the conclusion, and again, this is only anecdotal, so correct. How many substitutes are self-inflicted, where we have to pull for meetings and things like that. And I'm not objecting to that. I would say, my quick follow-up is, if you don't want to self-inflict substitute, there's an easy solution. It comes with a dollar sign in front of it and a lot of zeros after it. So I want to understand that, because just in terms of how much of the problem is not of our own doing so much as that's the way we do things, because to do it in another way would probably be less efficient. And that could be
Yeah, so, some of it is, some of it is our choice. I'll take away self-inflicted and say, so, for example, we have testing, different forms of testing are done by the classroom teacher, so substitutes in the room while the teacher may be delivering testing one-on-one. This year, the committees, the in-depth program review was one of the main areas where we would pool teachers for the purpose of conducting that work, but we try to be mindful of what was the most important work and who did we need and when. So if at all possible, we try to take advantage of the in-service days that are already paid for within the collective bargaining agreement, and we try to map the work that we're accomplishing on those days. There are other IEPs, as an example. There are other trainings that occur. It could be training related to asset science that must occur. It could be de-escalation training that's required of certain staff at certain times. So again, I don't have an exact percentage, but certainly that's a part of it.
And I'd just add, as we look at potential dates to hold those meetings, we keep a district-wide database of requests for either professional development or those meetings, so we're mindful of the selected dates. If we know we have a larger population of teachers we need for a certain activity that we're doing, then we look for dates that we have the best chance of getting substitutes and enough notice so we can reach out and get those substitutes secured as quickly as possible. So yes, we do cause some of the problem, but we try to be as proactive as we can in order to get the work done that we need to do as well.
Any further questions for administration? Thank you, Dr. Pasquinelli. Dr. Miller?
Yeah, I want to continue with sort of what do we think is the next step in terms of on this. I don't want to just leave it floating out there.
So my proposal is it goes to a committee.
Yeah.
I wasn't coming at it from a deficit, so I recommended the academic services and the premise that we were trying to include the academic services and driving kids. So providing a framework for a hypothesis and proposed solution, that's my recommendation. It starts a committee and ultimately the committee will bring the recommendations back to us.
There's an argument for staff services also, since this is obviously staff.
It probably should be, I was thinking a combination of the two, because if you can't fill the positions, you do need to have a process in place to ensure that the, inadequacies are compensated for. So I think it is somewhat a dual issue.
Yeah, agreed. My perspective 2 years ago would have been staff services. Where we are, especially where we are relative to neighboring areas, I think it's the question now in front of us is more academic achievement, but I don't think it hurts to do it. It doesn't really make any difference if we do it as a joint. Again, our goal would be to have the greatest attendance possible, and if that's doing a joint committee and that will have more voices, then certainly that's fine.
Because if I could elaborate just on what I would see as one of the greatest issues is when we have the necessary days for teachers to plan, and then we have substitutes, and we try and plan for those substitutes. I don't think those days are always substituted with the best used time. And in other words, we're trying to improve the curriculum by taking away a learning day. And those are the days that I think bother me the most.
Yeah, agreed. And I think strategically, so it's not without deep thought and consideration that we don't self-inflict the need for absences. Totally agree with you there. At the same time, certain work that becomes the tension that we've got to figure out. But the quality of what students experience can be planned for when known and should be. So how would June 9th, just to put a date, so we have two potential topics. One is report cards, and one is this, and there may be others floating in the future in academic achievement. But what about June 19th? I don't see a meeting on that date at this time. How does that, you'll have, Dr. Silbaugh, by that time, you'll have the parent feedback. You'll have had, would that be an okay time to?
Hopefully we can have administrative feedback.
Yeah, Would that work?
I mean, so far it works. Barring any strange things happening, it works for me.
Joint meeting, staff services, academic achievement.
Does that
June
work for
19th?
you, Jenny?
I would also invite any comments. So if you have your own, just as you shared tonight, if you have your own perspectives on report cards or on the issue of continuity of learning, and you want to individually share that, please share that with Dr. Silbaugh or me. That's fine, and we'll pull that. So if you have nuggets of gold that we don't want you holding on to them until June 19th to say, why didn't you guys think of this? We would prefer the input and feedback. Good?
Sure. I
Thank
got
you.
some nuggets.
Good.
Any further comments on strategic plan updates? Move on to finance, Mr. Sundo.
Item 3.01, motion to approve the financial reports dated May 15, 2017, and accounts payable dated May 15, 2017, in the amount of $357,868.47, and paid accounts for April and May in the amount of $5,333,891.90 as listed.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.02, motion to approve the budget transfers in the amount of $263,022.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.03, motion to approve the A.W. Beatty Career Center budget for the 2017-2018 school year as set forth in the proposed budget dated March 23, 2017, totaling $9,160,985.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? In front of all of you should be a ballot for you to sign with your vote. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes unanimously with 8 votes, because we have to count the amount of people here for Beatty. Thank you.
Okay, item 3.04 is a review of the Joint Finance Staff Services Committee meeting. For the finance portion, Dana gave us a budget update. Most of the time was spent with the staff services, specifically discussion regarding Policy 915. Owen had made a lot of the changes, both the board and public gave him feedback at the last meeting. We got good feedback from both board and public at this meeting. I think the decision was made to take it out of committee and bring it to the full board, but as an informational item once Owen makes the changes.
I would like to add that we asked Ms. Kirk to make an estimate of a possible increase in revenues in her update, and she hit it almost on the nose. So realizing it took her out of her comfort zone, we appreciate it.
That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Sundo. Academic achievement, Ms. Dawson.
Item 4.01 is a motion to approve the purchase of curricular resource materials in mathematics at a cost of $246,237.20, in fact, in social studies for grades 6 to 8 at a cost of $114,000 $1,855.17, and advanced placement psychology and government at a cost of $39,935.66.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I have to say, I did look over these books. The AP Government textbook is remarkably current. Dr. Pasquinelli has assured me that you don't have to keep buying books to stay this current, that the electronic updates will provide those updates for us. So I'll be voting in favor of this. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 4.02 is an Academic Achievement Committee meeting reminder, which has been placed for June 5th at 6 p.m. to discuss science, health, and PE in-depth program reviews.
Just share a couple brief comments on that topic. So that work is finishing, and our intention will be to get you at least one of the written reports, hopefully by this Friday, so that you have a chance to review it. We'll get you the other one hopefully then by next Friday, so that you have a few weeks with them before June 5th. June 5th, we have 90 minutes. We have two departments. So it is an opportunity to provide an overview of the recommendations in each report. Our thought process is, a 5-minute intro type thing, probably Dr. Pasquinelli, and then we'll allocate, 20 minutes to a science presentation, followed by 20 minutes of Q&A for science questions coming out of that report, and then 20 minutes of health and phys ed presentation, followed by 20 minutes or so of Q&A. It's quite possible, there's a lot of good work that's in there, and some of the recommendations we could enjoy conversation about for 90 minutes on one recommendation. We're not asking for action or anything on that night, we're just talking about it, so our hope is to be able to sort of go through that, discuss it, and then if we need to have follow-up, it's possible now even the 19th might be a place where we could have some additional dialogue if we don't do it. But our hope is to get through both, and not have health and phys ed here and not get to them because we engage in science for 90 minutes. So we can always do additional conversation later. Is that what our game sound like a good game plan?
I'm going to reach out to Mrs. Dawson just to prep that and talk about the structure and help facilitate.
I figured we'll strike while the iron's hot, while it's right here on the agenda.
That's very
Just saved you
thoughtful of you.
7-minute phone call.
Probably not 7 minutes, but.
That's because you talk so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Dawson.
Any additional questions on academic achievement? Mr. Kashani, would you be so kind as to present the consent agenda for buildings and grounds, streamlined
It's right up your alley.
for your perusal?
Happy to. So, item 5.01, motion to approve buildings and grounds consent agenda, including items 502 to 506, as listed below.
Second. The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Kashani.
Quite welcome.
Student Services, Ms. Johnston.
Item 6.01 is a motion to approve the student attendance and application of the Student Discipline Code for the peer-to-peer empowerment group to travel to Washington, D.C. from Wednesday, June 21st, 2016 to Friday, June 23rd, 2000, did I say 17? Did I say 7? Friday, June 23rd, 2017, to participate in the Jefferson Awards Foundation National Ceremony as described on the attached field trip request form.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 6.02 is a motion to approve overnight trips for qualifying teams or individuals to attend the PIAA state championships as listed.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Should be noted that if extenuating circumstances arise, the board reserves the right to deny a previously approved trip. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Johnston. Staff Services, Ms. Goebel.
Item 7.01, motion to approve the personnel and supplemental items as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I'll be voting no to this, not as against the entirety of it, but there is a position that I am not clearly in favor of on this.
Are the athletic supplemental positions, are they the athletic director's recommendations?
They are.
Is there any further discussion? Does anybody wish to have anything separated out? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve a sabbatical for professional development for Ms. Tracy Caruso, science teacher at Pine-Richland High School. The sabbatical will last for the first semester of the 2017-18 school year.
Second.
The item has moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
7.03 to approve an unpaid leave of absence for Arekia Polampis, social studies teacher at Pine-Richland High School for the entire 2017-18 school year to serve as the director of pre-AP Arts and Humanities Professional Learning with College Board.
Second.
The item has moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Is this unusual? I just don't know. It seems like quite an opportunity.
It is an unusual opportunity, not one that would come forward frequently, which is why we have it separated out as its own item. It's not something that we have seen historically very often. A lot of times we'll see leaves for people to go and potentially do grading and grading of AP exams and those types of things. We've seen those in the past. But to have the opportunity to go and work and do curriculum work with the College Board in the area in which she currently teaches, we see from a district perspective upon her return that being a true benefit and potential improvement in the area of curriculum and AP work in the social studies department. So to rewind, in short, yes, it's unusual.
I wasn't aware pre-AP was a thing. I mean, I know there's pre-AP, but there's real pre-AP apparently.
Right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
7.04, motion to approve the attached list of employees for the extended school year for the summer of 2017.
Second.
The item has moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
What's the definition of an extended school year?
Mr. Rossi.
What's that mean?
What's the definition?
Extended school year is an extended school year for students with IEPs who have qualified through 2 of 7 criteria set forth by the state of Pennsylvania that requires that they receive that service in order to be given a free and appropriate public education.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
7.05, motion to approve the second reading policies 903, 910, and 916 as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
7.06, motion to approve a second reading of policy 808, food services.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'm just, with some of these, I didn't get through the red lines of some of these, so I'm not voting no because I don't agree with them. I'm just voting no because I need more time, because I needed to look at the red lines and I didn't have them, so anyway, I'm going to vote no for now.
Thank goodness there's a second read.
Is this going to have to come back around sooner because of the latest announcement of the possible rollback of previous administration, healthy school lunch program stuff? Does anybody know?
I don't know if any of us can actually say that at this point.
I
The
didn't think
current
so.
law as it stands does require not necessarily this one to be done by June 30th, but they do want the administrative regulation to be in place prior to the start of the school year. So if the law were to change, then we would obviously have to follow what that would be.
Okay.
I would also add, Dr. Banias asked at the last meeting regarding an AR. It is attached here. And the AR describes specific thresholds, processes, et cetera, related to meal account balances and how that's handled at different levels within the district. There have been some headlines recently talking about shaming and different approaches or allegations made in different districts about the way that's handled. So if you were to take an opportunity to read through this, again, there's reasonable communication points, communications with the parent, particularly at the younger levels. There's reminders as students get older that they can become aware of. And also at the end, it has come up here at different times, what if a student were to have a hot meal in a serving line, and technically, according to the guidelines, they should not have taken that hot meal. You'll see a note at the end that makes it very explicit that that hot meal would not be removed from the student. So again, it's here. Please review that. We were not planning to bring it back since it's an AR, not a policy. We can, if you'd like, bring it back for the next month's discussion as well. But we want to make sure, as you read through this and understand what's been in the news, we feel that this is implementable, appropriate, can be handled appropriately with students, and should not create the situations that you read about in the paper.
This information has been reviewed not only at the administrative level, but also with the parent community, food service advisory and wellness committee as well. So we did discuss this AR as it is shown at the last meeting. We do have another meeting this Wednesday. There's one in the morning at 8 o'clock and one in the evening at either 6 or 6:30.
Is it singled out and shared, like prior to the start of the next school year?
Yes.
At some appropriate time, just prior to?
Correct.
Correct. This is what we've done this year, is somewhat expand the notifications, which that's already in place at this point for the younger levels and communications with parents. Historically, our guidelines have always been placed on the website under the food service area. It's also typically sent out along with the notifications from the food service department as well.
Is that app being well utilized, does anybody know? And can it be attached to that somehow?
It is still, the nutrition piece of that app is still being developed at this time, but we are looking at, there's a reference in here of the student payment site, and it is all tied together as well.
Good, thank you.
And an email, can you speak to the email notification to parents?
Sure. We have expanded some of the email notifications, again, to each of the families as they're listed. It is slightly different based on grade level, based on building. Typically, in the past, what we've done is we would send out letters whenever those negative balances would reach a certain point. We've been utilizing the system this year to also send out the email notifications from the food service department to those families as well. And I believe that's being done at least on a weekly basis.
I have a comment. I won't be voting for this policy. I don't agree with the no food at parties. I don't have any idea why that's in there.
That's the next item. This
Oh,
one here, the
okay, I'm
808,
sorry.
is for the negative meal balances. You're referring to item 7.07
Okay.
for the student wellness.
Okay, sorry. I don't, okay. I'm torn on that one, too. I understand that you need to control people that don't pay. You know what I mean? You can't just let them go on not paying, but at the same time, you know, the cheese sandwich is a little harsh, too. So I don't know where to go with that.
Is there any further discussion on item 7.06? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes.
7.07, motion to approve a second reading of policy 246, student wellness as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
No.
2 noes, motion passes.
7.08 is an information item, so...
This is, there are a few small changes made at the request of PSBA. This is part of the federal procurement attachment for the federal fiscal compliance policy that we already have. We did pass one of these procurement attachments earlier, and in the red line version, it essentially just kind of includes a chart at the beginning, which lists out what those competitive quote and bid limits are. It will require an annual update. Typically, those updated limits are released in January of each year.
So those guidelines are set by either state or federal government in absolute dollars versus percentage?
That's correct, yes.
What's the rationale for that? What's the rationale that comes from a federal or state versus locally controlled?
In the Public School Code of 1949, it does list specific quote and bid requirements, and those had not been changed for many decades. So a handful of years ago, they started passing what is considered like a cost index, and so now they're able to basically increase those each January. So the roots of it are tied into Public School Code.
So non-compliance is not an option?
That is correct.
Is there any further discussion? Item 7.09.
That's the review of the joint finance and staff service committee meeting, and Dennis spoke to that earlier, and I wasn't there for the whole thing, so I don't know if there's anyone who wants to add anything else.
I think Mr. Sunday's summary earlier covers both staff services and the finance.
Thank you, Ms. Goebel. Operational Services, Mr. Lyons.
Item 8.01 is a motion to approve the removal of 2 steamers and replacement installation of a gas kettle at the middle school.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 8.02 is a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between Pine-Richland School District and the Northern Regional Police Department as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 8.03 is a motion to approve the purchase of security cameras for the 3 elementary schools and the high school stadium in the amount of $74,000.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Item 9.01, election of school board treasurer. I will take nominations.
I'd like to nominate Peter Lyons.
Any additional nominations? Move to close the nominations. Congratulations, Mr. Lyons.
Thank you. Thank you for your trust and confidence. I'm looking forward to the pension. Dennis, you 12 years? How long?
The pension?
Probably about 10. First couple of years I wasn't, and, yeah, probably about 10.
I'm going to say, I've never known a board without Mr. Sundo as treasurer.
Congratulations on that, Dennis.
Dennis, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
There'll be plenty of time to thank him when the time comes, I'm sure, yes. But thank you very much for all that you've done for the board, and we'll talk more about that as time gets closer. Item 10.01, reports.
I don't have a report. I do have a question. Do you need to vote on that last item?
They did the nomination.
Well, they'd close the nomination because there's no one
Good
else
enough.
there.
Just making sure we're good. Okay.
Carrie cast unanimous ballot.
Okay.
Mr. Lyon.
Good enough. No, I have no reports.
Okay. Second recognition of visitors. I don't see anybody left in the audience. The board will retire to executive session to discuss a legal matter. Thank you for watching.